Container lemon trees die within months for most gardeners, yet commercial growers keep the same potted citrus producing fruit for decades. The difference isn't luck or expensive equipment. It comes down to 10 specific techniques that nurseries use but rarely share publicly. These methods address the fundamental problem with container citrus: the artificial environment that restricts root growth, limits nutrient access, and creates temperature extremes. Understanding these commercial secrets transforms a struggling plant into a productive lemon factory that yields 50 to 100 fruits per year from a single container. The techniques work in any climate zone where containers can be moved indoors during freezing weather, making fresh lemons accessible even in areas where citrus cannot survive in the ground. Each method builds on the previous one, creating a complete system that mimics the ideal conditions of Mediterranean lemon groves while working within the constraints of pot culture. The investment required is minimal, the results are measurable within one growing season, and the difference between success and failure often comes down to these precise adjustments that experienced growers make without thinking. Container size determines whether a lemon tree produces fruit or just survives. Most gardeners start with pots that are far too small, forcing frequent repotting and stunting growth. Commercial growers use containers that hold at least 15 to 20 gallons of soil for mature trees, with dwarf varieties requiring a minimum of 10 gallons. The material matters more than most realize. Unglazed terracotta breathes and prevents waterlogging, while plastic retains moisture longer but can overheat roots in direct sun. Black containers should be avoided entirely in warm climates because soil temperatures can reach 120 degrees Celsius, killing feeder roots and stopping fruit development. The shape affects stability and root distribution. Wide, shallow pots tip over easily and dry out faster. Tall containers with a depth of at least 18 inches allow the taproot to develop properly and provide better anchorage. Drainage holes are non-negotiable, with at least 4 to 6 half-inch holes in the bottom. Without adequate drainage, root rot kills more container lemons than any pest or disease. The container should sit on feet or blocks to ensure water flows freely and air reaches the drainage holes. Starting with the right container eliminates the most common cause of failure and sets the foundation for all other techniques to work effectively. Standard potting soil suffocates lemon roots and holds too much water. Professional citrus growers use a custom mix that drains rapidly while retaining just enough moisture. The ideal blend consists of 1 part high-quality potting soil, 1 part perlite or pumice, and 1 part pine bark fines or coco coir. This combination creates air pockets that allow roots to breathe while preventing the soil from compacting over time. The pH must stay between 6.0 and 6.5, as lemons cannot absorb nutrients properly in alkaline conditions. Testing pH twice a year and adjusting with sulfur if needed prevents the yellowing leaves that signal nutrient lockout. Adding 1 cup of worm castings per 5 gallons of mix provides slow-release nutrients and beneficial microbes that protect roots from disease. Garden soil should never be used in containers because it compacts, drains poorly, and often contains pathogens that thrive in the confined space of a pot. The soil mix should be replaced every 3 to 4 years as it breaks down and loses its structure. When repotting, removing the outer inch of old roots and replacing the soil stimulates new root growth and refreshes nutrient availability. This precise soil formulation solves the root suffocation problem that kills most container citrus within the first year. Overwatering kills more container lemons than underwatering, yet most advice fails to explain the actual mechanism. Container citrus needs deep, infrequent watering that mimics natural rainfall patterns. The soil should dry to a depth of 2 inches between waterings, which can be checked by inserting a finger or using a moisture meter. In summer heat, this might mean watering every 2 to 3 days. In winter, once a week or less, often suffices. The amount matters as much as the frequency. Water should flow through the entire root zone until it drains from the bottom holes. Light, frequent watering creates shallow roots that cannot support heavy fruit loads. The water quality affects tree health significantly. Softened water contains sodium that accumulates in the soil and damages roots. Chlorinated tap water should sit overnight to allow the chlorine to dissipate, or rainwater can be collected and used instead. During active growth and flowering, maintaining consistent moisture prevents fruit drop, which happens when the tree experiences water stress. A simple schedule based on soil dryness rather than calendar days prevents both waterlogging and drought stress. Commercial growers check soil moisture daily during peak season and adjust based on weather, container size, and growth stage, ensuring the tree never experiences the extreme wet-dry cycles that trigger leaf drop and stop fruit development. Container lemons exhaust nutrients quickly because there is no surrounding soil to draw from. Standard all-purpose fertilizers lack the micronutrients citrus requires, leading to the characteristic yellow leaves with green veins that signal deficiency. Professional growers use citrus-specific fertilizer with a 2:1:1 NPK ratio applied at half strength every 2 weeks during active growth from March through October. The key micronutrients are iron, zinc, magnesium, and manganese, which should be present in chelated form for better absorption. Organic options like fish emulsion and kelp extract work well when alternated with synthetic fertilizers to provide both immediate and slow-release nutrition. Epsom salt dissolved in water, 1 tablespoon per gallon, applied monthly, prevents magnesium deficiency that causes older leaves to yellow. In winter, fertilizing stops completely as the tree enters dormancy and cannot use the nutrients. Over-fertilizing causes salt buildup that burns roots and shows as brown leaf tips. Flushing the container with water every 6 weeks during the growing season leaches excess salts and prevents accumulation. Foliar feeding with a dilute fertilizer solution sprayed on leaves provides a quick boost during flowering and fruit set when the tree needs extra energy. This targeted feeding strategy delivers nutrients when the tree can use them while avoiding the toxic buildup that occurs with constant heavy feeding. Container lemons need annual pruning to stay productive and manageable. Without pruning, the tree grows too large for its pot, becomes top-heavy, and puts energy into vegetative growth instead of fruit production. The best time to prune is late winter or early spring, just before new growth begins. The goal is to maintain an open center that allows light and air to reach all branches. Start by removing any dead, diseased, or crossing branches. Then cut back long, leggy shoots to a healthy, outward-facing bud. This encourages branching and creates a fuller shape. Sucker growth from below the graft union should be removed immediately as it drains energy and produces inferior fruit. Fruit forms on new growth, so moderate pruning actually increases yield by stimulating fresh shoots. Each branch should be thinned to allow 6 to 8 inches of space around developing fruits, as crowding reduces size and quality. Pinching back new growth tips during the summer months creates a bushier plant with more fruiting sites. Pruning cuts should be made at a 45-degree angle just above a bud or branch junction, using clean, sharp tools to prevent disease transmission. Heavy pruning shocks the tree and delays fruiting, so removing no more than 1/3 of the canopy in a single session maintains balance between growth and production. Lemons require 8 to 12 hours of direct sunlight daily to produce fruit. Less light results in vegetative growth without flowers, or flowers that drop without setting fruit. South-facing locations provide the most consistent light in northern climates, while east or west exposure works in hot southern areas where afternoon shade prevents heat stress. Indoor container lemons struggle without supplemental lighting because window light rarely provides enough intensity. Full-spectrum LED grow lights positioned 12 to 18 inches above the canopy, running 14 to 16 hours daily, can supplement natural light or replace it entirely during winter. The container should be rotated 1/4 turn weekly, so all sides of the tree receive equal light exposure and growth stays balanced. Glass windows filter ultraviolet light that helps citrus synthesize certain compounds for pest resistance and flavor development. Moving containers outdoors gradually over a 2-week period in spring prevents sunburn on leaves that adapted to indoor conditions. In extreme summer heat above 95 degrees Celsius, providing afternoon shade prevents heat stress that causes fruit drop and leaf damage. Reflective surfaces near the container, such as white walls or aluminum foil, bounce additional light onto lower branches and increase overall photosynthesis. Light intensity directly correlates with fruit sweetness, size, and quantity, making this the single most important environmental factor for container success. Temperature control separates successful container lemon growers from those who lose trees annually. Lemons grow actively between 70 degrees and 85 degrees and tolerate brief dips to 50 degrees, but extended exposure below 40 degrees causes damage and freezing kills most varieties. Container roots are more vulnerable to cold than in-ground trees because the pot offers minimal insulation. Moving containers indoors when night temperatures approach 40 degrees protects the tree, but the indoor location must meet specific requirements. Unheated garages or sheds work only if light is provided, otherwise the tree drops leaves and stops growing. Heated spaces above 65 degrees with humidity above 40% are ideal, though most homes run drier and require a humidifier or daily misting to prevent leaf drop. Cold frames or small greenhouses extend the outdoor season by several weeks in both spring and fall. Wrapping containers in bubble wrap or moving them against a warm building wall provides a few degrees of protection during borderline nights. Heat stress above 95 degrees F stops growth and causes flowers to abort, so moving containers to shade during heat waves maintains production. Wheeled platforms or plant caddies make moving large containers manageable without injury. The ability to control temperature by moving the container is the primary advantage of pot culture and the reason container lemons can thrive in zones where citrus cannot survive in the ground. Getting a container lemon to flower requires manipulating the growing conditions to trigger the tree's reproductive cycle. Lemons can bloom year-round, but produce the heaviest flush in spring. A controlled stress period of 6 to 8 weeks with reduced water and cooler temperatures of 55 degrees to 60 degrees signals the tree to shift from vegetative growth to flowering. During this period, water only when the soil dries completely and hold all fertilizer. This simulates the dry season in Mediterranean climates where lemons evolved. After the stress period, resuming normal watering and feeding triggers explosive flowering within 2 to 3 weeks. Dwarf varieties and grafted trees bloom younger than seedlings, often within 2 to 3 years, compared to 7 or more for seed-grown trees. Some varieties are more free-flowering than others. Improved Meyer and Ponderosa bloom reliably in containers, while Eureka and Lisbon take longer to mature. High nitrogen fertilizer during the stress period prevents flowering by pushing vegetative growth, so switching to a low nitrogen, high phosphorus fertilizer before the stress period begins improves bloom rates. The tree must be mature enough to flower, with a trunk diameter of at least 1/2 inch and several years of growth. Patience matters, as forced flowering on young trees exhausts them without producing viable fruit. Most lemon varieties are self-pollinating, but indoor container trees lack the wind and insects that transfer pollen naturally. Hand pollination increases fruit set from 20% to over 80% of flowers. The technique is simple when flowers are fully open and pollen is visible as yellow dust on the anthers. Use a small, soft brush or cotton swab to transfer pollen from flower to flower. Gently touching the center of each flower and moving between blooms ensures complete pollination. This should be done every 2 to 3 days while the tree is blooming, preferably in the morning when pollen is most viable. Shaking branches gently or using a small fan to create air movement can also help distribute pollen. If fruit set is poor, despite pollination, the tree may be dropping fruit due to inadequate nutrition, inconsistent watering, or insufficient light. Thinning excess fruit to 1 lemon per foot of branch prevents the tree from exhausting itself and ensures the remaining fruits reach full size. Container lemons naturally drop some fruitlets in a process called June drop, which is normal and should not cause concern. However, if more than 30% of developing fruits drop, environmental conditions need adjustment. Successful pollination combined with proper thinning produces larger, sweeter lemons and prevents the branch breakage that occurs when too many fruits cluster on weak stems. Container lemons attract spider mites, aphids, scale insects, and mealybugs, especially when stressed or moved between indoor and outdoor environments. Prevention works better than treatment. Inspecting leaves weekly, particularly the undersides, catches infestations early when they are easiest to control. Spider mites appear as tiny dots that create fine webbing and cause stippled, yellowing leaves. Spraying with water to increase humidity and using insecticidal soap or neem oil every 3 days for 2 weeks eliminates them. Aphids cluster on new growth and flower buds, sucking sap and secreting sticky honeydew. A strong spray of water dislodges most, while insecticidal soap kills the rest. Scale insects look like brown or white bumps on stems and leaves and require scraping off with a soft brush, then treating with horticultural oil. Mealybugs appear as white, cottony masses and spread quickly if not caught early. Dipping a cotton swab in rubbing alcohol and touching each bug directly kills them without harming the plant. Beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings can be introduced outdoors to control pests naturally. Fungal diseases like sooty mold grow on the honeydew secreted by pests and wash off once the insects are eliminated. Maintaining good air circulation, avoiding overwatering, and keeping the area around the container clean prevents most disease problems. Chemical pesticides should be avoided on fruit-bearing trees as residues persist. These 10 techniques transform container lemon growing from frustrating guesswork into a reliable system that produces consistent results. Each method addresses a specific limitation of pot culture, and together they create conditions that allow lemons to thrive in containers as successfully as in the ground. The investment in proper containers, soil mix, and basic equipment pays for itself in the first harvest, as grocery store lemons cost far more over time than the materials needed for success. Starting with 1 or 2 trees allows testing these methods without overwhelming the learning process, and the skills transfer to other container citrus, like limes, oranges, and kumquats. If you found these techniques useful, exploring related topics about citrus pest management, grafting, or variety selection can deepen your knowledge and improve results even further.